A giant boat, the Batmobile, and a pair of failed Soviet space shuttles are just some of the 10 coolest abandoned vehicles we're about to look at. The World Discoverer. First on the list for today of the coolest abandoned vehicles ever is the World Discoverer. This ocean liner has been sitting on its side half sunk ever since 2000. It was once a cruise ship that went all across the world, navigating the 8,000 miles of the Northwest Passage with ease. But after an unfortunate meeting with an uncharted reef, the boat met its end. Everyone on board was safely evacuated, but the ship did not make it when the captain ran it aground at Roderick Bay in the Solomon Islands. To this day, nobody has been able to get the ship off the reef, and now it's become a tourist destination. A few salvage companies have tried to retrieve the ship, but unfortunately it's already being ransacked by locals and is basically useless. Plus, all the tidal activity has damaged the structure beyond repair, and all the rusting makes it nothing but a large pile of garbage. To retrieve the vessel now would be way more trouble than it's worth, and so the ship will likely remain slowly crumbling into the ocean as an oddly beautiful display in this tropical place. Porsche 911 race car. Nobody should ever let a Porsche 911 race car fall into such disrepair. This particular vehicle is a 1987 Porsche 911 race car that seems to have been sitting for an excruciatingly long time and is in desperate need of a full restoration. As of 2020, the car was put on sale on the Facebook Marketplace for only $12,500. The dealership selling this car told Road and Track that it was found sitting at a ranch outside of Houston completely abandoned. Alongside the Porsche was a 2008 911 GT3 Cup car. From the photo evidence, it appears that the Porsche was once a NASA club racer before it was forgotten and left to dry in the hot Texas sun. The car is obviously not in great shape, with tons of rust clearly visible in the photos, but the engine still appears to be intact, which could mean that with enough money, the Porsche could be restored to its former glory. The car still has a roll cage, it still has the harnesses, and it still has an aftermarket tachometer. Nonetheless, this wouldn't be an easy project to undertake. It's just a sad sight to see such a classic race car sitting in such disrepair and being sold for such a small price. The Ultimate Airplane Boneyard. Let's take a look at the ultimate airplane boneyard. According to a report from ABC News, the largest airplane graveyard on the planet is located in Tucson, Arizona. Popularly known as the Boneyard, this airplane graveyard is formally known as the 309th AMARG, or Aerospace Maintenance and Regeneration Group. The facility is used to store all the excess military and government aircrafts. That means that in this graveyard you can find abandoned jets, helicopters, planes, and even space shuttles all belonging to the Air Force, the Navy, the Coast Guard, NASA, and the Marine Corps. The site is literally filled with the coolest aircrafts in the world, all of them completely left to collect nothing but dust. There are apparently 500 people employed at the Boneyard, tasked with taking care of the over 4,000 abandoned aircraft that make the Boneyard their permanent residence. The good news is that you can actually visit this place. Check out the abandoned YC-15, the Japanese MH-53E helicopter, and much more. Toyota Supra. Sitting abandoned in Japan is a completely genuine 1999 Toyota Supra GT500 JGTC race car. As reported by Top Gear, the car has been abandoned for at least 15 years and has turned into the most expensive flower bed in the world. It can be found sitting outside of a local repair shop crowded with flowers as it gradually rusts away. Apparently, after the '99 racing season, nobody wanted this car. It was too complex to run, too expensive to own, and too much of a burden. So the owners of the small repair shop managed to pick it up for free. Ever since, they have been using it to catch the eye of potential customers outside their main office. It has sat undisturbed for almost 2 decades. The tires are flat, the paint is faded, and the rust has set in nicely. Interestingly enough, even though the small garage has been approached several times over the years by people who wanted to buy the car, with some of them offering ridiculous amounts of money, they always refuse to sell it. It turns out that the small family who got this amazing piece of racing memorabilia for free is happier having it as an ornament in their yard than as money in their bank account. Abandoned naval submarine. It doesn't get much cooler than finding an abandoned naval submarine. Well, a Dutch urban explorer named Bob visited a submarine abandoned by Portugal's navy. Bob spent 12 hours inside the submarine filming his claustrophobic adventure to upload online. He even took a nap in one of the narrow bunks. The vehicle has been sitting moored at a naval base in Lisbon for somewhere around 10 years now, but even though it's abandoned, it's still filled with all kinds of cool stuff. First, Bob climbed down the access hatch in the middle of the night after sneaking into the facility, and then he explored all the cool gadgets and dials inside the vessel. Among the cool artifacts discovered were chess pieces and the famous game Mastermind. It looks like the people who worked on the submarine needed exciting ways to spend their time. The submarine's proper name is the Delphin, and in its prime it cruised the waters armed with 12 torpedoes and a crew of at least 50 people. But the Delphin's usefulness ran out in the 1990s, and for over a decade it has been abandoned and left to rot. Abandoned yacht. Staying in Europe, let's head over to the coast of Albania. According to the local media there, authorities discovered an abandoned yacht that they believe was being used for the smuggling of illegal drugs. The yacht had a Slovenian flag on it and was named Taipan. The authorities figured that the owner was an Italian national, but when they found the boat, there was nobody on board. Its anchors were deployed, and the police kept the yacht under strict observation to see if anyone would show up so that they could arrest them. They suspected the boat had been used for drug smuggling, mostly because a speedboat was also found nearby. It's likely that the drugs were taken off the yacht and then transported to land using a speedboat. This is quite often how illegal substances get into Europe, although why the boat was abandoned is anybody's guess. Oddly enough, this is quite similar to an incident that happened in 2019 when a Turkish national abandoned his boat in the same area. The Turkish fella in question has yet to be apprehended. Russian tanks on Shikotan Island. On a small island that once belonged to Japan, there is a small platoon of armored tanks slowly disappearing into the grass. The island is known as Shikotan Island, and the tanks have been abandoned since the early 90s when the Soviet Union came undone. Back in the 1940s, the island belonged to Japan. It was where Japanese ships assembled for the secret operation to attack Pearl Harbor. Later on, between 1943 and 1945, Japan bolstered their strength on the islands only to have American attacks tie down their forces in the north. After the Soviet Union declared war on Japan in 1945, Russian forces landed on the islands and took them over. The Japanese lost, and in 1951, they gave up the islands to Russia and have yet to get them back. The Batmobile. If you ever wondered what happened to the Batmobile after the Dark Knight movies finished being made, you simply need to look to Dubai. The original and authentic Batmobile from the Chris Nolan movies is currently sitting in a garage in Dubai. Apparently, the two fellas who found it thought it didn't even look remotely as cool as it did on the screen. What happened was that after the movies finished filming, a man from Dubai purchased the vehicle for just shy of $1 million from Hollywood. And while it's not exactly abandoned, it's not exactly in great shape either. It had to be decommissioned in the United States before it was sent across the planet, which means all the systems that made it work had to be taken out. The reason that the Batmobile was purchased at all is apparently because the owner is planning to put all the original systems back in so that the vehicle can be driven, and the guy is also working on a fire-breathing exhaust system so that the vehicle can spit flames just like it did in the movie. For now though, the car is sitting unused in a rich guy's garage. Interestingly enough, Christopher Nolan actually requested this specific Batmobile to be designed based on his idea. It was constructed in the United Kingdom with at least 7 or 8 prototypes being dismissed before the final version was put into the film. Soviet space shuttles. Take a trip to Kazakhstan and you could find 2 abandoned Soviet space shuttles. It's one thing to find an abandoned airplane or an abandoned tank, but to find an abandoned spacecraft is like a dream come true. These space shuttles were designed during the Cold War, but after just one flight, the entire program was basically scrapped. However, nobody ever thought to throw the space shuttles away. There are still 2 of them sitting in a disused hangar, completely abandoned near the launch pad where the first failed Soviet spacecraft took flight. The actual launch pad is still an active spaceport, which sends astronauts to the International Space Station. But the hangar with the abandoned space shuttles is located a little way off and is in serious disrepair. A French photographer visited the site between 2015 and 2017, and he captured some pretty fantastic images of the unfinished and oddly depressing space vehicles. The shuttles are extremely similar to the original United States model, which is not that surprising considering the USSR had pretty much cloned whatever piece of technology the Americans invented. Even the paint job of white and black on the disused space shuttle is pretty much the same as what the Americans came up with first. Bugatti Veyron. Our last story also involves Russia. A Bugatti Veyron was found completely forgotten and abandoned in an undisclosed location in Russia, and the story behind it is a little odd and not entirely convincing. Supposedly, the Veyron was involved in an accident in early 2013 when it was hit by an Aston Martin. Rather than repair the Veyron or deal with the insurance, it was actually cheaper to just ditch it. While the full details of the story are vague and unconfirmed, there are legit photos of the Veyron with its back end totally demolished, sitting outside what looks to be a mechanic shop. If the guy really did abandon the vehicle, the towing company who picked it up probably got to keep it free of charge. That would be just about one of the best scores a towing company could make. After all, what kind of maniac just leaves a Bugatti abandoned because of a little fender bender? If you could restore one of these awesome abandoned vehicles, which one would you choose? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe for all the best videos. See you again soon. What is the most expensive car that you have ever driven or driven in?